Hey, peace world. Thanks for pressing play on another Pay Me No Mind sports and entertainment video. My name is Wood. Gonna jump into some bite down boxing. A lot of action yesterday. I'll run through some of it and take some calls if anybody joins the live stream. And do want to invite you to check me out over at www.bitedownboxing.com. Couple articles over there, recaps, whatnot, photos, some quotes, things of that nature. Also, do me a favor and check out the latest episode of the It's Always Personal podcast, which can be down or streamed or downloaded everywhere: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, as well as Spotify. So check that out for me. Gonna hit in, mostly the big fights yesterday. Light heavyweight champion, unified light heavyweight champion, Artur Beterbiev against Adam Deines. The Lawrence Okolie and Glowacki fight for the WBO cruiserweight title. That was on the DAZN. Talk about that Joe Cordina against Farouk Corbinov fight, as well as Anthony Fowler and Jorge Fortea. Just some quick thoughts on all of that. Gonna get into the bite down boxing fighter of the weekend. That's an easy one this week. And then I'm also going to talk about some thoughts on the Golden Boy show with Maurice Hooker being stopped by by 22-year-old undefeated. He has a WBO and a WBA, some kind of junior or regional titles or something, but Virgil Ortiz Jr., talk about that. Shout out to Spence and Crawford in the building last night at Dickies Arena in Fort Worth, Texas. I believe that's where it was. Shout out to the Texas fans, embracing boxing and enjoying all of the action that's being placed down there because of the because the state the government is has some lax views on people gathering and whatnot. So I'll get into some of that. Like I said, I'm mainly gonna jump around a little bit, take some calls. If anybody wants to weigh in and talk about what they saw, I'm sure some hot button stuff today is or talk today or chatter is whether or not Virgil Ortiz Jr. should face WBO welterweight champion Terrence Bud Crawford. I don't know, man. I mean, who cares, really? Hell, I like to see him get I like to see him get anything done. Before I went live, I was talking to myself, and it's like at welterweight, for anything that you would want to do at welterweight, there's a reason why not to do it. For everything at welterweight, there's a reason why not to do it, why not to consider it, why not to try. Who cares? I mean, it's a pretty, for all the big names that are there and all of the historical importance and so on and so forth, for all of that, welterweight is a big waste of time, in my opinion. Seriously. This is why I don't understand why Virgil Ortiz, I don't know why it was a rush to go up to welterweight, to go up there and wait. Same thing with Jaron Ennis. I talked to him when he was up in Flint. I had a chance to interview him after the weigh-in for like 2 fights ago, maybe 3 fights ago, when he was up there for the Claressa Shields fight that didn't happen. He was talking about moving down to super lightweight to 140 pounds. I thought it was a great idea. Now he doesn't seem to have any kind of relationship with Top Rank, where all 4 of the titles are right now, but I just don't understand why anybody would be in a rush to go to welterweight. And so for that reason alone, I mean, I really tipped my cap to the 2 guys last night, to Ortiz and Maurice Hooker. gonna tip my cap to Ennis, the aforementioned Ennis, and Sergey Lipinets when they fight on April 10th on Showtime. Salute my cap to all of those guys for fighting. Like Ortiz said last night about Hooker, you know, the guy didn't have to take this fight. Hooker could have taken a much easier, he could have beat some nobody, fought some nobody, and looked great doing it, and probably got into the, got into an eliminator, level fight or something. Like, you don't even have to, you can do the little bit, you can do the least amount of anything at welterweight and like position yourself. We just saw it with Garcia, with Danny Garcia. He beat the hell out of Adrian Granados and became a thing again. Smashed Adrian Granados and then beat up Ivan Redcash, and he was the thing. He was hot again. Maurice Hooker should have just took a page out of his playbook. Anyway, let me jump into
here. He's up somehow. Does he know where he is? No, he does not. It's over.
It's not giving Glowacki any opportunity.
There it goes. That big right hand that he's been holding back for a moment like that. And Glowacki is in deep, deep trouble here. He's up somehow. Does he know where he is? No, he does not. It's over.
That was the DAZN card to finish for Lawrence Okolie, who won the WBO cruiserweight title yesterday. That was a midday fight. I'm gonna talk about that card really quickly, just what I noticed, just what I was interested in on that card. Shout out to Okolie, McDonald's worker back in 2015, I believe. I want to say he was at McDonald's as recently as 2015. And was it the 2016 Olympics? Was that when was that where Anthony Joshua won his gold medal? 2016. But Okolie, you know, they've told the story a number of times that he was working at McDonald's in some, I'm assuming it's some kind of major metropolitan area, where the Victoria Station or something they called it. And he saw Joshua and somebody else. Oh, Usain Bolt. And he was inspired and went about to, set out to go change his life. And a couple of fights ago for Okolie, I did a reaction video like after early Saturday afternoon after watching him on somebody's card, and I was kind of critical of the guy, only from a technical standpoint, from his boxing, his skill level. And I thought, the dude was pretty. I thought he was really raw. I thought he had a lot of work to do. I didn't think that he was all that enjoyable to watch as a fighter, as a boxer. I thought he was very crude. Just had a lot of development to go through. I think somebody disliked the video. I mean, that's normal, but that's all I was really saying was that the kid, I mean, he was hard to watch. It was a lot of clinching, just poor range management, no real no educated offense. It was bad. And he gradually, shout out to him. And sometimes when you say stuff, when you have a YouTube channel, you have your voice, you have your platform. I'm not always saying things for fighters to quit. This guy should get off TV. This guy should never put on a pair of gloves again. I'm not always saying that. A lot of times I'm just saying what I see. These fighters had an opportunity to go back and work on these things and improve and develop and get into their next fights and make a career of this thing. We got it today. Like just to say something about somebody else is hating. Just to point out the obvious is hating. No, I just said the dude had a lot of work to do. And going into this fight right here, I was confused at first. I wasn't sure if he was the WBO champion and was defending a title already. I didn't think that he was there. And so, I eventually realized that it was a vacant title that he was fighting Krzysztof Glowacki for. And I wasn't sure how it was going to go. Okolie's last fight out, he fought a guy, I don't know, some Eastern European guy who wasn't all that great. And he looked pretty decent against him. He's a tall cruiserweight. I mean, he's 6'5" or something. He's a bit awkward looking because of how long his arms are. He's an awkward looking fighter, and he's just very rangy, real long and kind of slender. But I wasn't sure what was going to happen in this fight because of Glowacki's his background, his pedigree. And Okolie, like I said, he's incrementally taking steps to figure out his game and become what he is. But very early in the fight, man, I mean, he fought a smart fight. He fought the best fight possible for him to be successful and stuck to it. Just left jab, move, circle to his right, getting away from the shorter Glowacki's left hand. He southpaw? I can't remember now that I'm looking at it. Nah, not southpaw. But that was it. Just hit him with the jab, move. The guy couldn't get to him. And he just continued to do that for 4 or 5 rounds. Every once in a while, he would sneak a good right hand either into it was like it was not quite in the chest, but it wasn't down in the stomach either. But he would hit him with that and kind of get Glowacki's respect. And he started accumulating a little bit of damage. You could see that Glowacki was getting frustrated. He didn't really have a way to get inside, or to change the fight up whatsoever. He just was being dictated to for 4 or 5 rounds. And then there in the 6th, fight was over. I thought he could have got up. I mean, it wasn't a horrible shot, but I thought he could have got up, but I think he made a decision while he was down there, like, get up for what? Get up for what? It's just going to be the same thing. But shout out to Okolie, man. I mean, I think it's great for these guys to become world champions, and I think that's a testament to, for all of the hatred that Eddie Hearn receives. He does get some of these guys into great positions. I can't deny that. He calls out Brightus, Marius Brightus, who took out Dorticos at the end of it. Took years to get that cruiserweight finale for the World Boxing Super Series a few months ago. I think Brightus can box pretty decent. And I think you saw that against Dorticos. He was very hard. Dorticos barely could hit him with his right hand all night. And I think that's what Okolie should be concerned about, is that Brightus is not going to really be as easy as Glowacki was. Brightus beat Glowacki once or twice. But Brightus can box a little bit. He has some decent concepts to work with, and just, not the most fluid guy, not the most athletic guy. He has his shortcomings and whatnot, but he can box. And I don't know, maybe Okolie's skill set or his physical attributes, maybe that allows him to overcome the skill level advantage that I think Brightus has. But I definitely don't think Brightus would be as cooperative. But if that's what Okolie wants to do, and if that's what Eddie Hearn wants to do as far as his next assignment, not hurting anything. I heard Brightus wanted to move up to heavyweight though. And Brightest, he's not much taller than Glowacki, but I think he might be 6'2", 6'3" maybe. So maybe that reach advantage won't be as significant for Okolie in that fight. But I think it's a good fight if Brightest doesn't move up to heavyweight. And I don't like Brightest at heavyweight, to be honest. He's not that great. I mean, he's not that dominant at cruiserweight to go up to heavyweight and make a lot of noise. So I think if you can make a meaningful fight with Okolie at cruiserweight, unify some belts, why not stay there and do that? And I think the fight works over in Europe, so maybe they get it in. But I do think I think Brightest has a skill advantage that could really trouble Okolie. But I can't get mad at the dude if he's that ambitious and believes in himself that much. I also think it's dope that Okolie is managed by Anthony Joshua and his 258 thing. So shout out to Okolie. Honestly, I'm not even gonna hold it up with the bite down boxing fighter of the weekend. It is Lawrence Okolie. I mean, the guy, like I said, coming from McDonald's, and I was wondering, is his nickname Sauce? Is that from his fast food days? His days as a fast food employee. But I mean, Okolie has a good personality, man. I mean, the dude is humble. He's a bit silly, and it might be stereotypical how we look at some of the European fighters. They have their own, they have a different vibe about them. A couple fights ago, I made some jokes. They were jokes. They weren't insults, but I made some comment about Daniel Dubois coming out to his ring music. His ring walk music was Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. And I can't remember what it was. It was one of Will Smith's. Actually, it was Will Smith. It wasn't even. I don't even think it was DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. It was like a Will Smith song, and it was like something really popish. And I was like, damn, bro, this shit is embarrassing, man. Like, you supposed to come in here with something edgier to it. Like, you coming out here with this bright, bouncy shit, you about to get pieced up. But they do, they have their own vibe over there. But Okolie, I guess it's all house money for him. He's like, man, I changed my life. I did what I said I was gonna do, what I set out to do. He's sparring Anthony Joshua's of the world. He's working at his craft. He's doing his thing. So I take nothing away from the guy. And, you can be successful with being able to execute a couple of things very well. And you can be matched properly to where you don't get out over your skis and somebody makes you pay for what you don't know. So I still think he has some stuff to work on and some growth to some growth to go through. But shout out to him, man. So that's my bite down boxer of the week, Lawrence Sauce Okolie. I did want to, before I moved on to that Artur Beterbiev fight, I did want to talk about the other two fights on there on that DAZN card that stood out that I was watching. One would be Anthony Fowler because there's been some talks about him possibly facing Austin Williams, who fought last week against Dennis Douglas. I don't know what the significance of that fight is other than they're both Matchroom, fighters, but that's just a fight that I keep hearing every time one of these guys is on TV is them being matched together. I think Ammo Williams, and talking to him previously, he had some interest in fighting in the UK. Actually, he's already fought in the UK once. But Fowler is the guy that, he's kind of being steered to maybe. And Fowler is 30. I think Ammo might be, or he's early 20s. So like I said, I don't know what the significance of that fight is, but they've called each other out a couple of times. So that's why I was watching this Anthony Fowler fight against Jorge Fortea. I thought Fortea could fight a little, could box a little bit. He had some decent movement and whatnot. He had the shoulder roll, defensive stance and all of that. The fancy trunks on and everything. But after the second round, he didn't really do a whole lot. But Fowler, Fowler isn't horrible to me. He can box, he can fight, has a pretty good punch on him, a little bit of a showman, a little bit of showmanship to his game and whatnot. He took a good punch in the second round that Fortia landed. With some solid back and forth action in the fight. And then in round 3, it just fell apart completely for Fortia. He was down twice. The first time he actually went down from like a jab. Maybe it was a power jab or whatever, but it turned his whole body around. He kind of ran into it. But he got up. He was still hurt. Fowler jumped on him to finish it. And it was a straight right hand for the second knockdown, and Anthony Fowler picked up the win. I thought it was a pretty decent fight, but all of these guys, a lot of these guys are still fighting for European titles that I don't know the significance of them, whatever. I just check them out when they get on. What's up, D-Lo Boxer? What's good, bro? Appreciate you checking in. I'm just talking through the fights yesterday. Cordina is another guy that I was keeping an eye on. He was another cat that Eddie Hearn is big on and trying to do his boxing takeover and whatnot. Yada, yada, yada. Okay. But Cordina, I kind of associated Cordina with the other kid that just lost a couple of weeks ago against Evanesian. The Olympian. His name is completely escaping me at the moment. Josh, Pretty Boy Kelly. I kind of associated those two guys together. They got the best hair. They have some of the best hair in boxing with Pretty Boy Kelly and Cordina. And I'm not even trying to be funny, man. I mean, you got to be able to laugh at some of this stuff, man. You can't take all this shit personal. But I was looking to see what Cordina was now that Josh Kelly got sat down and got beat up by Evanesian. I wanted to see what Cordina could do. Cordina had been inactive since 2019. Didn't fight at all in 2020. Had a hand injury, I guess. Just like Kelly, the dude can box. The dude can box and isn't horrible, but neither one of those guys really have a lot of power. I think that's one thing that's gonna hamstring them a little bit. Not to say that everybody has to have power, but as you start going up the rankings, as you start fighting, stepping up in class, you got to do some things that set you apart from the competition. And to sit here and watch Cordina go, what he went 8 rounds or 10 rounds with Farouk Korbanov, I thought he looked pretty decent. He boxed well at times. He knows what he's doing defensively. He was coming back from being out all 2020. I give him that. Based on the fact that I didn't know Korbanov, I mean, I was waiting to see Cordina hurt the guy, beat him up, punish him a little bit, and none of that never really happened. Like I said, at times he did outboxing. He changed some things up here and there, but he didn't really, for a guy who was talking about before the fight, he was saying that he wanted to get into the picture as super featherweight. Again, 130, 135, 140, it's a lot of killers in there internationally. Like, you have to do something to be able to stand out. You have to have something that you do excellent. It's killers, even going down to one. I mean, right now from super flyweight, from 115 to bantamweight, 118, 122, stacked, 126, some bodies there, 130, some bodies there, 135, a lot of bodies there, 140, a lot of bodies there, 147, everybody just goes and waits. You got to be able to fight. So, Cordina gets the win, majority decision, 96, 96, 98, 93, and then 96, 95. I didn't see it being that close. The card that was even, I didn't see it being that close. But Korbanov, he didn't give up. Again, being that I'm over here in the States, man, I don't always know what some of these challenger, the opponents, I rarely know, you know, a lot of those guys, like I just said, with Jorge Fortea, I didn't know much about him. I had no bearing or no way to gauge where a lot of these opponents are and so on and so forth. Usually when I see them, I'm seeing them for the first time. So no disrespect to Korbanov, but like I said, knowing Cordina and knowing what Hearn wanted to do with him in the future, I was keeping an eye on him. I just think he needs to get another fight and continue to to do his thing. Let me talk about this Beterbiev card. I didn't watch all of the card. It was a lot of fights on that card. Looking at it, the box rec, it was like 16 fights over there. But it was headlined by Beterbiev, Artur Beterbiev against Adam Deines. Deines was down? He was down at the end of the first round, and I thought it was another situation to where the IBF had a horrible, I think it was his IBF mandatory, but I thought it was another situation where it was a poorly matched, a mandatory that was overly matched, like what we saw with Taylor in his last fight when Bob got all pissed off about about the guy barely making it a fight. And I thought Deines, when I saw him go down, I was like, here we go again. But Deines actually got up and gave a pretty decent account of himself. And I don't really have a lot of criticism of Artur Beterbiev's performance. He didn't get to fight in 2020. I believe he was on the sidelines the entire time. He spent a lot of rounds kind of arm punching, but I mean, he's a heavier arm puncher. He gets squared up a lot. He didn't seem to be his normal aggressive self all the time. But he was, Deines was doing some things, landing some short combinations here and there, landing some decent shots here and there, making it a pretty decent fight. He took a lot of shots. He took a lot of uppercuts. He just went some rounds. And I think credit to what's my man, what's Beterbiev's trainer, Mark Ramsey or something. He got in Beterbiev's ass a little bit later in the fight and pushed him to to step it up, knowing that there's a chance that maybe the Bivol fight is out there, a possible fight with Canelo. I'm sitting here watching the fight myself, thinking, if you're fighting like this, maybe Canelo at some point considers a fight up at light heavyweight. Maybe he considers that fight, thinking that you're not. And that's crazy looking at what happened with Wknd. And that's why, Beterbiev was a little bit off in this fight, because the dude that took apart Wknd, he wasn't that same guy. And to see Deines make it to the 10th round, I was sitting here kind of like taken aback on what I was watching. But at the 122 mark, Deines was back down again in the 10th round. His corner threw in the towel. He taken a lot of punishment. It was a left hook inside that rocked Deines. He went down, and that was the end of the fight. I didn't watch the Besputin fight. I didn't really realize that Besputin was on, to be honest. But I did want to see what he looked like. If it's on ESPN Plus, I might go watch that on demand here in a second and see what he did. Let me see who. I don't recognize any of the other names on there. And I'm taking calls, man. If anybody wants to holler, talk about any of this stuff, you can call the number that's right there on the screen. Other than that, man, I'm gonna jump into this the card over in Fort Worth last night. Oh, also on that Okolie and Glowacki card, the cruiserweight, Chris Billum Smith against Vasyl Dukar. I just know the name. I've seen Billum Smith's name before. Decent win for him. A lot of these guys, like I said, that I have since I have the zone. And if they fight on the zone more than once or twice, and I start seeing the name and they kind of get on my radar, I check them out. So I checked out Chris Billiam Smith. You know, good win for him. Talking about the fight last night in Dickey's Arena in Fort Worth, Texas, headlined by Virgil Ortiz and Maurice Hooker. I'm gonna start with what we saw opening card in the cruiserweight, the young cruiserweight, Tristan Calcruth against Dustin Long. I wanted to see a little bit more from Calcruth, but Long really didn't put up much resistance. Who knows, you know, how much Long has been in the gym. You know, he's 38 years old. He did stop Marcellus Wiley, I think, not Marcellus Wilder. I think they did that. That went to the 4th round or something. So, I mean, he could do something. But Calcruth jumped on him. You know, it ended up over in the corner. He was covering up. Calcruth was uppercut, right uppercuts, straight rights, you know, trying to punch through his guard and whatnot. Long didn't lift his head up a whole lot and try to see what was coming. He was just trying to survive. You know, he didn't try to grab the kid, clinch him or anything to stop it. It was what it was. I was kind of shocked that he was down as long as he was. Well, we saw a left hook to the body, a left hook to the top of the head, maybe a right hook to the body also landed in there somewhere. Like I said, he was kind of punching through his guard a little bit, giving the dude hell, but I didn't see anything that landed that clearly for the guy to be down that long. I mean, I've been at a couple of fights ringside and seen guys leave out on stretchers and whatnot, but they got landed. They got hit with flush punches to the head, and you understood it. I didn't see all of that in Long, other than the fact that maybe he was just embarrassed. But Calcruth, man, I like the kid's attitude. Cruiserweight, you know, he moved to 8-0 with his 6 knockout. I mean, it doesn't tell us a whole lot about the young man. Cruiserweight is kind of you know, I don't want to say it's a wasteland, but it's one of those divisions where it doesn't take much to become. I mean, if you can separate yourself, if you can raise your profile, what is there to do for you there? I don't know. They mentioned, I think Mannix was mentioning Okolie. Like, the kid has a ton of work to do before I would imagine he's on the, and I'm not even looking at I can't remember I think one of the African cats is another champion up at cruiserweight. And then, like I said, Maris Brightus. But Calcruth is a long ways away. Good win for him. Did it in front of his hometown people and whatnot. And it's good, you know, to see the kid pop up on these cards and for us to get an eye on him and just check out his growth. But other than that, not much to take away from that fight. The hell of a fight last night. Maybe kind of, we got our money's worth in Ortiz and Hooker, but this Marcelino Lopez against Jairo Lopez, they went to war. I mean, and check out my write-up, like I said, at www.bitedownboxing.com. No pictures. I don't know how you get in touch with Golden Boy to get press releases and to get fight night material from Golden Boy. Guess they don't care about how their events are covered. They don't give a shit. I didn't email them like 20 times, and you know, it is what it is. But I try to respect the fighters. So that's why I continue to cover their events, even if I'm not at them. You know, I try to just do it for the fighters. But I just don't know how you mess with a promoter who doesn't have any concern about the coverage of their events and the coverage of their fighters to help these guys and women, you know, raise their profiles and whatnot. But it is what it is. But Lopez, the Argentine, dude looked in amazing shape, big puncher. He was swinging for the fences all night. What did he get? 2 or 3 knockdowns against Lopez, rocked him several times. I didn't think Lopez had to continue to take those shots, but he did. Cruisers never talked about, so to me, that Bridger is going to have a hard time catching on, if ever. Yeah, I'm with you, D-Lo, if you're still on here, man. I don't think the Bridger thing is a bad is like a bad development, or a horrible idea. I think they had good intentions with it, and I think for all of the heavyweights that were going to be 6'6" and up, 6'5" and up, and 240 and up, and then if anything, it helped a lot of the Americans, because it seems like the American heavyweights are often the ones that are down. Maybe before Big Baby Anderson came along, and I guess the first Big Baby, who was up near 300 or over 300. But it seemed like a lot of the Americans were 6 foot to 6'3" and down in the two teens, 220s. I remember fast Eddie Chambers, like he had no business being up at heavyweight. His name comes to mind. Chris Bird was a smaller guy. It just seemed like all the European cats were just huge heavyweights, and the Americans couldn't compete with that, with what was trending. With the Bridgerweight, I think last month, maybe the first rankings for Bridgerweight came out. It's gonna be a hard sell. Cruiserweight is a hard sell. Cruiserweight is more of an international weight division, in my opinion. But I just think it is valid that a lot of these guys that might be 6'2", around 6'2", maybe even 6'3", a lot of these guys just can't compete with someone they're giving up 40 pounds to. And you can't sit in here and say that those guys can't, that those guys can't fight those guys. Like, boxing doesn't have a lot of rules. Like, nobody comes in and says, hey, you 270, you can't fight somebody 220. That doesn't happen. So I thought they tried to do something just in application versus the conception of it. Yeah, it's going to be messy. It's going to be messy. But like Cal Cruz, I mean, I don't know if he's a future heavyweight. I would imagine at some point, he takes that. If he continues to win, I would imagine at some point he takes a look at that division, but I don't know if he's really a cruiserweight. Brightus, who I was talking about, I don't see him making a lot of noise at heavyweight. Dorticos, he didn't really seem like a heavyweight to me. It's just one of those weird. It's just one of those weird things in boxing. Maybe it's never, maybe it's one of those things. I saw somebody a couple months ago say something about people out creating solutions for problems that don't exist. Maybe this is just one of those situations where the WBC set out to fix a problem that doesn't really exist or doesn't really warrant being fixed. But hey, it's out there. It'll be interesting whoever wins that belt, now that they had the rankings out there, it'll be interesting to see Calvin Brox, Jennings, and on and on. Frazier versus Foreman comes to mind. Yeah. I hate watching Foreman and Frazier, because Foreman just really made him, he just ragdolled Frazier, unfortunately. That's a tough watch. But that is a great example. I just, we hadn't seen Frazier like handled like that. But yeah, Calvin Brock, Brian Jennings. But I just saw a picture yesterday, D-Lo. I just saw a picture yesterday with Jared Anderson, the heavyweight out of Toledo, Ohio. And Brian Jennings. And I didn't realize Brian Jennings, they were about the same height. And I don't know if the angle of the picture or if Brian was a little closer, was a foot closer to the camera or whatnot. He almost looked a little taller than Jared Anderson. And that's just something to watch for with the growth. With the next moves for Anderson, if he is, even though he's a legit heavyweight, but if he's on that smaller side of the heavyweights, how does he deal with the guys who are going to be 255, 265, 270? and they're above 6. They're 6'5" and up. I think Anderson is 6'4". That's a concern that kind of comes, but he moves very well. That's his calling card, is his movement, and the punching combinations that he seems to have. So that's interesting for him. Getting back to this card, Marcelino Lopez and Jairo Lopez, just great action. That's one of those fights that pop up on these cards week to week. They're not the main event, but they're that second or third fight, and they just give you a great fight. Even when Jairo was getting hurt, or when he was like out of it, he still was landing some big shots, like just off of muscle memory and just knowing that he's in a damn fight, and caught Lopez a number of times. And I thought maybe he would have hurt Lopez or bought himself a couple of seconds or something, but Marcelino could give it and he could take it. I thought it was a good thing in the 5th round when he did go down at the 125 mark. I thought it was a good thing that Lopez, it looked like he could continue, but he had one of those corners that weren't going to throw in the towel. And they thought he could. I think after the 3rd or 4th round, his corner man asked him, like, how you doing? How you feeling? It was in Spanish. But it was like, do you see what this man is out here taking? Like, hey, what do you mean? How do I feel? This dude is hitting me with, this dude is trying to kill me out here. And he'd already been down once or twice. So, but his corner wasn't going to help him out. Some of these different cultures, man, they look at this, they take boxing differently. They justify risk differently. And some of the flush shots that he was getting hit with, even the referee, Mark Glowacki, Texas is different. Texas, fighting in Texas, boxing in Texas is different, if you don't know. But I thought it was a good deal that he stayed down on one knee. You could see that he was processing, like, let me go on and get that. Let me let this dude have his victory. I thought that was a smart move. You've been knocked, you got up a couple of times, you taking more big shots, you gave some big shots. The fans had nothing to complain about. You weren't going to win the fight. Go on and do the honorable thing. The dude is just better than you. Come back and fight again, but don't sit in here and get hurt, severely hurt, for a bunch of people who really don't give a damn about you as a person. So I thought that was a good look on Jairo Lopez's behalf, looking out for himself. The women's fight, I thought it was a damn good fight. I like Seneisa Estrada. I like her skill, man. She is pretty skilled. She kind of stylish with her, with her upper body movement, her foot feints, body feints. She seems to be a legit boxer. I wouldn't even put female fighter, women's boxer. Like, she looks like she can just box. I think she's very entertaining down at her at a weight that's really suited, that she's best suited for. Although I don't know what the ranks, I don't know what the field looks like at minimum weight. But Annabelle Ortiz, that was like her 12th or maybe her 13th title defense. Not a big puncher. She was 31-3 coming into it. I think she was 34 years old. Estrada, she pushed the pace. She forced the issue. She was in and out. Like I said, the feints. I liked the way that she set up her combinations from outside and got in and out. Like I said, added some style to it. Beat up Ortiz. Ortiz's eyes were both puffy and whatnot by like the 4th or 5th round, definitely by the 6th. And Ortiz, she fought like a champion. She was the older fighter. Not the same power level, not the same skill level, but she wasn't there to just relinquish her belt just because she was in there against a more talented fighter, a more talented younger fighter. I don't think Anderson is. Yeah, I'm with you. As I was talking through that, I was thinking the same thing. Like, I don't think Anderson is as big as he's built. You're right. I think Jennings is around. That's what tripped me out in the Instagram picture, was like, I thought Jennings was like 6'2", and here these guys are standing by each other, and Anderson ain't taller than him. Yeah, I'm with you, man. And that's, false advertisement in boxing is not illegal. You know, you can say whatever whatever your height is. I don't think they take that measurement really. But yeah, I don't think Anderson is 6'4". I agree. Yeah. And that's that's a legitimate concern to me is when even though we know that he was the chief sparring partner with Tyson Fury ahead of the rematch with Wilder. Yeah, when it's under the real lights, you know, and if there is 3 or 4, you know, even a Hergovich, some other guys out there that have some decent height on them. I mean, obviously a Wilder is 6'6", 6'7". You know, Josh was 6'6". Okolie, you know, he might be 6'4" or something. I don't know. It's a host of guys that are out there, you know, 6'4" and up. And with Anderson being a young kid and having to go through a lot of guys to get to to get to contender and then to get into the championship picture, I just, you know, have some concerns about how it is handling all of those bigger guys. But we got plenty of time to figure that out. But good point, man. I don't think he's as tall as they have him listed either. But back to Estrada and Ortiz, it was kind of the same thing for all 10 rounds. One thing that comes to mind, though, you know, we go back and forth with the women being at 2 minutes versus 3 minutes like the men. We know that women hit from closer tee positions in golf. We know that the women play best of 3 in tennis versus the best of 5. Women bowlers, a lot of them throw balls, although the men's the weight of the men's bowling balls, a lot of guys started throwing, they got away from 16 pounders and went down to like 13. I used to bowl. But a lot of guys started throwing lighter balls for whatever reason, preference or whatever. It's differences in the men's and women's games a lot of times. The women's basketball is smaller. There are differences out there in the two sports. What I'm getting at is if you know how to fight, which I think Seneisa Estrada knows how to fight, that whole 3-minute thing really isn't. I can understand it from a fan's perspective, but I don't think is necessary for you to hurt opponents and for you to get knockouts. I know it does make. I have said before that it makes it difficult. I do think it makes it difficult to for like the women to really focus on body work because it takes time to get comfortable to to pull off an attack to the body. So I understand that it complicates things, but I think there's a way to adjust to it. And I think Estrada is one of those that either has, maybe she has a combination of just being a big puncher for the women's boxing, or she knows how to set up her punches to hurt her opponents and to get knockdowns and to possibly stop opponents. I've also said, I was talking on here a couple weeks ago with the boxing writer, Karen A. Tate, and I forgot what the hell I was getting ready to say, but it can be just technique. You could be heavy-handed. Like, there's a way to get knockdowns in women's boxing. It's not all that we just need that. Oh, what I was going to say was, I think if you move women's boxing to 3 minutes, I think the fights could look even worse. Or they could look really outmatched or overmatched. Like, we've seen fights before that it was an embarrassment to boxing. Like, why is this on TV? Or that person shouldn't be boxing. That person shouldn't be in the ring. I think if you add that third minute to the round, I have a feeling that you could see a lot of fights where the quality of the fight goes down significantly. So it's like you have to weigh the two, Do we go and get his third minute so that we can hopefully increase knockouts? or the possibility for knockouts, or do we add this 3rd minute and now the fights look less competitive? And I was saying that definitely above, above welterweight. Even at welterweight, the field, the pool of fighters is just not that great. So it doesn't really help every division. It doesn't really help all fighters to add that 3rd minute. But shout out to Seneisa Estrada. Good performance. She picks up her 20th win. I thought she was going to get the stoppage. Didn't happen. I wasn't all that familiar with Ortiz, but I thought she did her thing, in trying to defend her title. Seemed like, excuse me, she could have packed it in. And she fought all 10 rounds. She just was overmatched. She was in there with a classier fighter. Getting ready to go get this late breakfast in. Virgil Ortiz. Excuse me. Virgil Ortiz and Maurice Hooker. Good fight. Salute to both of those guys. I don't really know what any complaining is about. Not the ending that we kind of wanted with Maurice Hooker hurting his hand. Maybe some people were looking for a clean knockout or a clean knockdown. I get that. Excuse me. Good fight. I mean, like I said at the start of the live stream, we're not going to get the fights that we want to see at welterweight. So I'll take whatever I can get that's compelling. Crawford and Spence, in all likelihood, they're not going to fight Jaron Ennis or Virgil Ortiz Jr. It's not going to happen. The Ortiz Jr. fight might happen because we will see black versus Mexican or black versus Puerto Rican. So they might attempt it from that perspective, from that angle right there. But again, this is the best. This is about the best that we can get. Lipinets against Jaron Ennis, April 10th, I think it is. This fight right here, Hooker and Ortiz Jr. That's about the best you can get at welterweight. Now we got this Stanionis kid. I think he's gonna be on that Jaron Ennis Lipinets card. He's out there. The younger Ramos, I want to say Jesus Ramos, maybe. I hope he stays at 140, but I think he fought this last fight at welterweight. Seemed like good business would be to stay at 140 if you can make 140. Yele Yusanov over on DAZN, another young welterweight. I'm forgetting one other though. It's one other younger welterweight. I can't think of his name. But again, I don't know what these. Why would you rush to go fight at welterweight when the business in that division is more important than good fights? That's just the reality. So I thought this was a damn good fight. It seemed to be high stakes. It seemed to be it could go either way for a lot of it. I'm not even gonna sit here and clown Ortiz because his face got beat up a little bit. Excuse me. Damn. If you're fighting good fights, if you're fighting good opponents, that's gonna happen. I'm trying to take this damn hoodie off. If you're fighting good opponents, you ain't always gonna look pretty. So just because his face was a little busted up, just because he got touched up a little bit, that's not really a bad thing for me. The other thing that I was going to say, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Ortiz Jr. I never really thought I never thought Ortiz Jr. was like just gonna get up in against the elite in the division. I never thought he was gonna clean those guys out. Like, I don't think he's head and shoulders above everybody to where he was just gonna take the division by storm. I think he can win fights. I think he's a damn good fighter. But I think it's gonna be fights. I mean, it's every with him moving forward, like, it's gonna be good fights. But thinking that he was just gonna continue this streak of knocking all of his opponents out, I didn't really see that happening. So for him to come in here, I thought it was an exciting fight. It was good back and forth. Like I said, it seemed like either guy could hurt the other guy at any minute. Although I don't think Ortiz really got rocked. I don't have my notes in front of me. I don't think he really got, and that's the thing. Again, I saw some people talking about Ortiz needs to work on his defense. That's nitpicking to me. If you fight another guy that can fight, you're gonna get hit. And he's too young, in my opinion, to sit back and be safety first in everything. Like, you gotta go and fight. So I didn't really take away any negatives for Ortiz in that performance. I don't think he's ready for Crawford just yet, for a Crawford. I saw Bernard Hopkins was saying that was the next move. It kills me when, like, guys who should know better, but he's a promoter, so maybe that's just promoter speak. What's up, Finkley? What's good, bro? I'm about to get off of here. I just thought it was a good fight. Let's enjoy the fight. I had a good time watching it. It was exciting. I liked the crowd was into it. Hooker is not a perfect fighter. He made some mistakes. You know, he got lured into firefights early on when he probably shouldn't have. I thought I loved how honest he was. What was that? After the 5th round? I think it was after the 5th round when he got that body shot. He took that left hook. And you know, he showed that it affected him, and he didn't finish the round strong. And Bomac was saying something, and he was like, "My bad, boss. I couldn't breathe." So again, welterweight is all of this for show stuff and the bullshit, and, like, I don't know, was it Lomachenko? Like, it's a lot of businessmen, it's a lot of business bullshit at welterweight versus fight somebody and fight who the hell we want to see you fight. So I don't have anything negative to say about the fight. It was a good fight. I knew it was going to be a good fight going into it. The guy I thought was going to won, but he had to fight to win it. I think it's a little unfortunate that that Hooker hurt his hand as bad as he did, to where he had to go out the way that he went out. It may have been inevitable anyway that he was going to get stopped. Maybe. Virgil Ortiz is a contender now. AB versus him would be interesting. Broner? I don't want to see Broner at welterweight. I'd watch that fight, but that wouldn't make sense for Broner, in my opinion. Finkley. I don't think I'm gonna put a policy on Pay Me No Mind that I don't discuss Broner fights. I don't discuss Broner, period. Like, Broner is in a different lane, in my opinion. I don't think Broner is fighting for, like, the same reason as what his why is much different than everybody else at 140 and 147. That's just my opinion. There's no like, I want to see so-and-so and I want to see so-and-so. He just throws out this general statement about being 5-time or 5-division champion or 5-time champion. But there's no real path to get to that. But if they were to make Ortiz and Broner, then that would signal to me that like he's really about boxing. But he's kind of about events. Like, let me get some fight that I can win, and we'll figure it out. But he's not really in boxing to me anymore. I don't want to see it be over for him, but I just think he has to fight. He has to be open to fighting some real people for me to really be concerned about what his next move is. That's just me. One thing that I was thinking with him was, when you can say that I'm a 4-time champion, exactly. They protecting boxers is what exactly. And that's what I was getting ready to say. And that's why I tipped my cap to Maurice Hooker last night. He didn't have to take this fight. He could have fought some whatever and got a 5th round, 4th round knockout, and would have been in his next fight could have been an eliminator level fight. He didn't have to fight this dude, but he did, and he got busted up, and he lost another. He lost what was that? His second fight, his second loss. And a lot of dudes don't want to lose. They don't want to be beat up. They don't want to face a real challenge. And I just think that's where, for me, Broner, you get the victory against Santiago, and then there's no, like I said, they don't call anybody out. They don't say who I want to fight. They don't say what I want to do. I want the winner of so-and-so. They all went into this Mayweather thing when Mayweather was in a much different position to not have to call anybody out. But a lot of these other guys, they don't even talk about their profession. They don't even talk about their career. They don't even talk about, it's nothing. It dude's just standing around. They don't have a fight date. I want to get back in there before the end of summer. I want to fight 4 times this year. I want him, and then I want him. I'm watching so-and-so and the win. They don't say none of that. So I don't really talk about Broner. It was a great fight. It was playing out like it was supposed to. I had Hooker by split decision up into the inevitable. I wasn't really scoring the rounds. It was close though. I'm not gonna lie. I thought it was close. I will say, I said it last year. I thought the best prospect at welterweight, I thought the future of the division is Jaron Ennis. And that's not trying to belittle Virgil Ortiz. Virgil Ortiz has his style. He has his strengths. He has his attributes. He's a good fighter. He's a hungry fighter. He's entertaining. He's another guy that's out there that I want to see go through the division and whatnot. But I just think watching it all play out, Jaron Ennis. I mean, if he looks great against Lipinets, he just seems like to be the X factor out there, or the guy with the most upside. He's the most dynamic youngster or younger fighter that's in the division, in my opinion. Until I see, I got to see his movement, all his movement, the quickness, the swagger, the body. He does it all. I just got to see how it plays out against the elite guys. And I think Lipinets is an excellent opponent for us to get a peek at, what's next for him. But again, the 2 champions or the 3 champions that we have right now, none of them fight Ennis before they move on or whatever. I just don't see it happening. Don't see it happening. You know, I like Ortiz. You know, he doesn't seem to be he's not a trash talker. You know, he's not a disrespectful guy. But I think, you know, I like what he had to say about what's next for him. And if he fought, if they made him and Crawford, I will watch it. I wouldn't give him a good, you know, a big shot to win that fight, but I watch it. And again, man, I mean, these guys at welterweight, they got to fight somebody. They're not gonna make the fight that we all want to see. And I'm gonna be honest. Quick aside on Bud and Spence. I like what Bud said, man. The hell with it. I tried to make the fight. The fight can't get made. I don't have I don't have a side in who's wrong and who's right. The whole 60-40 split versus the 7. I don't really have any opinion on none of that. Nobody has sent anybody a contract for anything to really happen. Another thing that's really pissing me off at welterweight, we saw the situation move forward with the IBF mandatory at 140 for Kambosos and Teofimo Lopez to go through the whole process, and there be the purse bid and all of that. But then we see up at welterweight with Sean Porter and Terrence Crawford, there is no mechanism or no rule. There's nothing that has like expired or activated that sends that down the process where there's a purse bid or they just standing there. It's just a freaking traffic jam. They just standing there. Maybe the winner of Ramirez and Josh Taylor is another detail that we need to see get worked out before Top Rank and everybody involved can take a look at what's next for Terrence Crawford. But other than that, they don't seem to have a play. I think that's unfortunate. You know, Terrence is 34 or something. Spence seems to have a lot of options. No play for him either. Nothing in the works for him neither. That's what's so boring about this shit. You know, he fought what? Was it December? How can you be one of the top names in the sport and it's 3 months later and we haven't heard nothing from you? Like, how boxing operates is weird as shit to me. How can you work to be at the top of the game and to be able to have all of the options that anybody would want and to be able to make money? You know, you can command purses and whatnot, and you just disappear for 6 and 7 months out of the year. What if Patrick Mahomes just didn't show up for training camp? The OTAs skipped the first 4 weeks of the season. Maybe showed up in like week 6 or 7, showed up at the facility, stood on the sideline once or twice. And then maybe in like week 9, Patrick Mahomes had his first start. Like, how would TV even be able to put a schedule? And maybe y'all like, this motherfucker being extreme. But I'm just saying, like, all the other sports have stuff built into it to where it keeps our attention throughout the year. But boxing, these dudes just drop in whenever they want to and expect us to be concerned about them or clamoring for their next fight. I just don't get I don't understand how the sport works anymore. Guys are already fighting, you know, the bigger names are already fighting, trying to fight twice a year. And then when they do pop up, they fight somebody that we weren't even That's not who we were all talking about. We wanted to see them face. I just don't know how the sport operates. So I just, like I said, man, I tip my cap to the two dudes that fought last night. I hated that it ended the way that it did, with there being more of an injury versus a knockout or whatnot. But it is what it is. Things happen in boxing. But I thought it was a good fight, man. Like I say, rarely are we sitting here on the edge of our seats thinking that either guy can, legitimately win the fight. And I do think, Hooker seemed to be getting the worst of it. But like I said, Ortiz's face shows that he was getting touched up too. Hooker just didn't really have the power to really hurt Ortiz. And I think that's part of Ortiz's, that's part of his identity as a fighter. He's gonna be a tough kid. I don't think his defense is horrible. I just think he is willing to take a shot to land his shots. And it's going to be exciting moving forward. So that was it, man. Like I said, the bite down boxer fighter of the weekend was Lawrence Okolie. I mean, anybody that becomes a world champion in any division after sitting here dropping fries and building sandwiches at a fast food joint, no disrespect to that man's work history. I just think that's a hell of a story, and that's really betting on yourself, believing in yourself. Everybody's not going to be out here in corporate America. Everybody's not going to have a skilled trade. Everybody's not going to be a rapper, a performer, a model. Some people are going to have to literally get it out the mud. And I think Okolie, a guy that I was critical of just 2 or 3 fights ago, for him to pull off what he pulled off, man, I got to acknowledge the dude. So shout out to him. Appreciate everybody that checked in. They expect us to be happy they showed up. You're right, D-Lo. Just be happy that we graced you with our presence tonight. And we got the bag in the back already. We already got everybody's money. So whatever happens out here in the ring, doesn't really matter to us. The women had a great fight also. Yeah, Finkley. I thought the women's fight was dope, man. I talked about that a little while ago. Ortiz was in a real war. Yeah, I agree. Anyway, I don't have a whole lot. Appreciate y'all for rocking with me. I didn't even look at next week's schedule. That's the heavyweights, Wknd and White, that rematch. I might come back on next Saturday, and do like or maybe next Friday, and do like a preview show. I told you that day-to-day stuff, it's just a waste of my time. Nobody really cares about what's on the schedule. A lot of people just care about 3 or 4 fighters. So to come on here and try to say what the schedule is, let people know how to watch any of this stuff, just doesn't seem to be what's popping. I could pass that bitch like Stockton. Enjoy the rest of the day. Get in there tomorrow and do what you got to do for your 9 to 5s. I'm out.
Glowacki.